Hey, everybody. I am so thrilled today to have this next guest. He's an amazing individual, incredible journey from refugee as a child to member of parliament, former chancellor of the Exchequer, business and thought leader, and so much more. Nadim, how are you?
I'm well, Evan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year. We are in the thick of it now. So much happening. And I'm so looking forward to such, an insightful conversation with you as always around leadership and business and public service and beyond, and also an update on your new ventures. For those who aren't familiar with you and your biography, maybe let's start from the beginning because it's an extraordinary story. And I'd love to share it again with my audience.
Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, well, look, I arrived in the United Kingdom in 1978-79 when my father had to flee Iraq and the Ba'ath regime under Saddam Hussein. And I arrived here on these shores at the age of 11 without a word of English. In my early uh, uh, education, my teachers thought I had learning difficulties because of course,
Wow.
the few words I'd picked up, I try and sort of string them together in my head to make a sentence to join in the classroom. And as an 11-year-old, children can be incredibly cruel, as you can imagine. I didn't like
Mm.
making mistakes. But by the time I made the sentence in my head, the subject matter had moved on in the classroom. And so they thought I had learning difficulties. Of course, uh, children do, and they are incredibly versatile, resilient, malleable. You pick up the language, and within 8 to 12 months, with the help of the tabloids here, I picked up the Sun newspaper and started reading its pages. I was able to really fulfill the most extraordinary ambition of this 11-year-old without a word of English, ending up living in number 11 Downing Street as Chancellor of the Exchequer, as you very kindly introduced me. And the journey there, I've recently published, as you know, The Boy from Baghdad, my memoirs, which have gone down really well with HarperCollins, my publishers, and of course they're available on Amazon. And if you really like audiobooks, Evan, which I know you do, it is pretty much it's the one above it. If you go, it's the blue cover. I
Mm.
don't know if it shows up on the Amazon app in the States, but it is a remarkable journey in many ways, and I'm very, very fortunate. But the audio book as well is available. You can hear my voice for 12 hours, 40 minutes if you are so minded.
Well, we love British accents here in the US, so that will be actually a thrill here. But let's talk about the story. Didn't begin and end, of course, with being a member of parliament. You have a fascinating entrepreneurship journey. How did that start, and what was your inspiration there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a slightly unusual politician in the United Kingdom. You have many more of them in the US now, especially with the likes of Vivek and others. Where I came from the world of tech and business, I built YouGov, which was the pioneer in online research 25 years ago. Became the leading online research business in the UK. I brought it to the US. We bought a brilliant business in Palo Alto called Polymetrics and rebranded it to the YouGov brand and never looked back. It became one of the UK's unicorns and is now a sizable business. And then I chose to enter Parliament afterwards. I'm really an entrepreneur at heart. And now I've gone back to that world with some really interesting new appointments that I've very recently announced, including, of course, Ador Diagnostics, which you very kindly sent me a nice congratulatory note on. It's a fascinating business out of Tel Aviv.
Oh, tell us more. We have so much to talk about, but let's stick to some of the highlights. What is the mission behind Ador Diagnostics? What attracted you? You could do anything. What was so attractive and interesting behind the mission?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fascinating business run by some incredible scientists and incredible science. So we all became very familiar, as I'm sure you did in the States, with PCR tests during the
Of
pandemic.
course. Yeah.
Everybody has to have PCR tests almost daily. to be able to function at all. What Ador has done is produced a new patented technology. It's called the
Wow.
rolling circle um, technology that effectively diagnoses forensically what you may have in your gut or in your lungs. So up until now, if you've got a cough or a bad chest, you go to see your doctor. The doctor doesn't quite know what virus or bacterium or pathogen you have in your system. So they'll prescribe you antibiotics. They will do obviously maybe a CT scan just to make sure you've got nothing more severe than that, and you get your antibiotics. What Ador's technology, rolling circle amplification, so RCA, does is effectively give you, very forensic um, diagnosis of whatever pathogen is in your lungs or in your gut
Mm,
within 30 to 45 minutes. It's
wow.
had preclinical trials in Israel, which have been incredibly positive, and it's now in preclinical trials in Italy. And I'm very, very excited because both Mike Milken and Howard Shaw, it was Howard Shaw of Shaw Capital, who first introduced me to the business. He's an investor in it. And I am excited because actually, if you think about not just during a pandemic, but in terms of healthcare systems, if we can cut down the use of the wrong antibiotics, if we can forensically identify, something as deadly as sepsis, for example, very early on, not only will you save lives, but you save money as well in any healthcare system.
Oh, it's a wonderful mission, and it's really tech for good. I love the innovation and the investment in technology. When YouGov was that understanding public sentiment to shape public policy. This is becoming a theme of your public service is doing things that enhance society. Where are we in the UK with the outlook on both technology, business, innovation? Or is the glass half empty or full for you? Um, Now that you're not officially a politician, perhaps you can give us a more reflective answer
Yeah, no,
these days.
absolutely. Look, I think in many ways, where the positives are is in terms of innovation and tech, and of course, the current big focus is on AI and large language models. The UK has done incredibly well. We're probably third in the world after the
Mm,
US and China. The UAE is, snapping at our heels and is doing some incredible stuff. And I'm excited about the work there. I've been spending a lot of time there as well. But in the UK, where I think we have done well, and I hope this government continues on this journey and doesn't actually move away from it, is because of Brexit, we've been able to have our own independent regulatory environment, regulatory framework, which has always been instinctively in the UK that you build first, let the technologists, get out there and do their magic, do their thing, and then you revisit and recalibrate and regulate. Europe has chosen a different path. Europe has chosen a path to regulate first, which I
mhm.
think is insane in many ways. It is why so many tech companies are either relocating to the UK or, of course, to the US, or tech companies in the US choosing the UK as their base. You look at Mark Anderson choosing London as his sort of flag for his unique investment ability. So I think we're in a good place, and I applaud this government, albeit they are the Labour government. I am a Conservative. I'm in opposition to them, but I think when they do things well, we ought to applaud it. And I'm glad that they've continued on the journey that Rishi Sunak set out. In that we will be a very attractive place for tech investment, for tech entrepreneurs, for innovators from the US, from around the world to come and set themselves up here in the UK. Not least because we've got, I think, a very mature ecosystem. If you remember, it's
Mm.
all about you still need human resource, right? In if you're going to get anything to scale. And the UK, I think, is in a great place as far as that's concerned. Where we're not doing so well is probably the tax environment. If you look at the budget, I think the budget was anti-growth.
Mm.
Many millionaires are leaving the UK. I think there was a front page headline in the Times newspaper last week that we have lost more millionaires, second only to China. Over 10,000 millionaires have
Wow.
left the UK because of the removal of the incentives for them to be in the UK, what we call the non-dom status here. And I think that was a mistake. It was a mistake actually by my government to introduce it without introducing a scheme similar to, say, Italy, i.e., you can remove the old regime, but you should introduce something fairer. Yes, of course, the wealthiest should bear you know, they've got the broadest shoulders, so they should bear the largest burden in terms of paying into the Exchequer. But nevertheless, we should have a regime that is friendly to investment, friendly to entrepreneurs, and we don't have that in the UK, unfortunately. So I think there is much to learn from places like Italy and what Prime Minister Meloni has done to attract, wealth creators and millionaires and billionaires. What the UAE is doing, they're
Mm.
probably, I think, second in the world now for attracting wealth creators. And again, we've got to learn from these challenger economies that are coming through. It's no longer good enough to just compare yourself as the United Kingdom to the G7, right? That three of the G7 are in Europe, and Europe can say, well, whether you like it or not, we're a massive market. Got to come here. You're going to pay our taxes. The fourth is America. Again, a continental economy. We're no longer that. We have to be much more competitive. So I think that's the negative from this government. But the positive is certainly on the policies around AI. We're much more attractive than Europe.
That's fascinating. And the key is public-private partnerships. I lived and worked in Cambridge in the UK a lot of my 20s, and there was a tremendous ecosystem being built. And it's still being built, but it needs, as we're seeing those with the CHIPS Act here in the US, it needs that kind of collaboration between industry and government. And, China is all about that. So essentially, we're competing in that mode. Are you seeing those partnerships come to fruition? Are you seeing some of the benefits there? What do they look like at the current moment?
Very much so. When I was in government, I tried very hard to encourage my prime ministers, as I served under three prime ministers, four prime ministers, I should say, with Liz Truss for that short period of time, to make sure that wherever we can, we're able to lean in the way actually the US leads the way in terms of not only some of the big government departments uh, uh, making sure that they invest in technology, invest in innovation, but also be the customer. Because some of the new innovative technology, whether if you look at the Ministry of Defense, whether it's drone technology or AI, it's wonderful to have the ability to invest in some of these new technologies, but it's even more powerful if you talk to the startups, the entrepreneurs. They say to me, actually, having the government as a client is a fantastic way to open the
Mm,
doors to other customers because it gives us the credibility to be able to go and speak to other international customers, local customers, to say, by the way, not only have I taken the benefit of a grant from government or a particular innovation grant, but I've also got the government as a client of mine, and they're buying my product on the other side, and not just buying from the large corporates
absolutely, and that applies to the National Health Service, I think, as
across the board.
well. And you've been a supporter, and most Brits are very supportive, but the system has challenges. What does health technology potentially bring to the table, and how can the NHS leverage advanced emerging technologies like the one you're working on and many others to offer better patient services, experiences, and more?
Yeah, look, so during the pandemic, we had to make decisions fast. I think we
Mm,
made an absolutely the right decision. For example, and I'll try and answer your question through an example. Um, when we had to vaccinate the nation, and I was asked to lead that endeavor, that effort, we needed a technology platform so that actually we can see who's being vaccinated, you know, by the minute, forensically, by household. And so we collaborated with a brilliant group of technologists that Peter Thiel's great business that allowed us the ability through their technology. They've got a platform called Foundry that allowed us to be able to see
Mm.
at 8 a.m. In the morning, every morning, who's being vaccinated, and which areas of the country we were doing well in, and where we needed to put more effort and more focus on. So Palantir gave us a phenomenal um, uh, uh, ability to be forensic in our spend, in our focus on how we vaccinate and protect the nation. It also allowed me to open the platform up to the country. I had this big debate with some of the leaders in the NHS. I said, we've got to show the country who we're vaccinating. I can't go on television every night and tell the
Mm.
people to just trust me. The numbers are adequate. I'll tell you in a couple of weeks' time what the real numbers are. Palantir and Foundry allowed me every night to publish those numbers to the nation, to show them how many we've vaccinated, and that built the trust day by day that we were going to protect the nation. Uh, Now that technology platform has many uses beyond the pandemic today. So the work that Wes Streeting, the current health secretary, is doing, I applaud. Again, I'm not in the game of just talking down anything my opposition does now that they're in government. And so I'm glad they're carrying on with that collaboration, as well as then collaborating with some, new innovators. So I'd like to think that they would look at Ador Diagnostics. They will look at, how it can be used, both in terms of a insurance policy, because the one thing about diagnostics it can do is it'll pick up if there is a spike anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, in fact, because it does near
Wow.
patient diagnostics. And so forensically, so instead of sort of waiting for the Australians to sort of tell us what they think the new flu virus will be this year, I think with the power of companies like Ador, the technology that we have, we can be much more protective of populations much faster in flu season, for example, and produce the vaccines that are much more effective because of the forensic diagnostics that we can now deliver. So lots of exciting areas to work on.
Oh, it's a wonderful mission, and I'll be following your work. So, as you know, from today, we have a new regime in place, and you have so much wisdom, so much experience. Any advice, both from the big guy at the top, or to others taking power in all different kinds of roles, also in business, new business leaders. What's your advice on the future and governance and leadership?
Well, one, can I begin by congratulating President Trump on his victory, and of course on today's inauguration. I think it is I hope, a moment of coming together. I hope that, uh, as he has said, he will bring the nation together. He will, I hope, help lean in and resolve some of the greater challenges in the world, including the war on our continent in Europe, between Russia, which has been the aggressor, invading a neighbor in Ukraine. I hope that ability and the power of the United States can be brought to bear to bring this war to an end, a fair and amicable end. And of course, I think my biggest hope from someone who's run some of the biggest departments in government is that Vivek and Elon succeed in their mission. If they can cut the federal budget by a couple of trillion, even if they manage, 25% of that, right? It would be a remarkable achievement, and one that I think many democracies, many civil service, institutions around, certainly Europe, which is in much need of value for money service delivery, because as you know, as I think Draghi has written about this and others, Europe needs reform. The UK, I hope, will be able to learn if they succeed. America will be able to innovate in service delivery in government. And so I'm absolutely willing them on to succeed. And I wish them all the very best, to Elon and to Vivek, both incredibly talented human beings. They're going to bring their talent to service delivery. And there is no greater, I think, uh, uh, cause in life than being able to deliver for your country.
Well, good luck to us all. Back to you personally. What are you excited about over the next few weeks, months? Any travel or meetings or events that you are looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously doing a lot of work with Ador Diagnostics. I'm looking at really interesting projects to work in what I think is one of the most exciting economies in the world outside of the UK, and that is the UAE.
Mm,
And I'll be announcing a few more things that I'm doing there, which are really exciting. It's a remarkable country. I think it's one of the most sustainable economies in the world today, thanks to very clear leadership, very clear strategic vision, and then team building. Everyone I've met there has been focused on making sure they create the best place in the world to live, to make home, to build a family, and of course to build a business. And I think that's a pretty remarkable thing. Education is a big focus for them, and of course I spent time as a Secretary of State for Education, and I think I hope I'll be able to make a difference in helping them achieve some of their goals.
that's an incredible story. Can't wait to see how that unfolds. And I think you're still in Stratford upon Avon. Our strong dollars means us Anglophiles are spending them in the UK, traveling over whenever we can. Any good advice for visitors? Get outside of London. I think that's the key. Is go to some of the
Absolutely.
smaller towns and cities.
Exactly right. London is beautiful, and I think I tweeted, or whatever the new word is now for X, that London won the TripAdvisor city of the most visited city in the world in 2024, which is I thought was remarkable. And despite the I think in many ways the challenging governance in London, which I'm not particularly happy about. London institutions, entrepreneurs, restaurants, hotels, museums have done phenomenal. Theatre, of course, but outside of London, nothing beats Stratford upon Avon. And I would highly recommend the Royal Shakespeare Company, of course, which is the best theatre in the world, in my view, thanks to
Legend,
many Americans
legendary.
investing in it, as well as the British government, and of course the Birthplace Trust, where the great bard was born. I would love you to come and be my guest there. We will show you some remarkable treasures in the Birthplace Trust, both in the Shakespeare homes, but also in their archive, which is pretty fascinating.
Oh wow. Well, that's definitely on my bucket list. Thanks so much, Nadim, for sharing an update, and congratulations on all the success onwards and upwards.
Thank you for having me, Evan.
Thanks. Take care. And